Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and today we're looking at the Boeing 747-8 by Revell in 1/144 scale. Now, this is an all-new tooling, and it comes in two versions. This is the passenger version, and Revell also offers it in the cargo version, which is actually the more numerous version in the real world. Now, most people are familiar with the 747. The original had its first flight in February 9th, 1969, and a total of 1,522 of all variants have been built up until June 2016. Now, the Dash 8, which is what this is, was announced in 2005, and the cargo version had its first flight in 2010, and the passenger version in 2011. And the passenger version seats between 410 and 605 passengers, depending on the configuration, how many classes it has, and things like that. Now, as of June 2016, Boeing has sold 74 of the freighters and 51 of the passenger versions. And 9 of those passenger versions are business jets, which kind of blows my mind. And then the remainder have been sold to Lufthansa, Korean Air, Eric Air, Air China, and Trans-Aero Airlines. And unfortunately, the Boeing 747 is probably going to be phased out of production within the next 2 or 3 years. Boeing has stated that they're slowing down production of the 747, basically so they can keep it in production long enough for the US government to place its order for the next generation of Air Force One. Now, the US government has stated that it wants to use the 747, and they're supposed to be placing an order within the next 1 or 2 years. So Boeing wants to keep the assembly line up and running at least until then. Now, why don't we take a look at the box and open it up and see. Alright, so on the side of the box here we have some pictures, some close-ups of the actual model built up. And over here we have a blurb telling us about the kit itself. It has 172 parts, and they're suggesting that you want to use white, black, aluminum, Lufthansa blue, gray, and blue. And the main languages featured on the box are German, English, French, and I honestly don't know. I'm thinking this is Dutch, but I could be wrong. Looking at the other side, we have more of a comprehensive history, once again in those 4 languages. And let's open this up and see what we got inside. So upon opening the box, we have the standard Revell of Germany instruction manual, although at least it's printed on normal paper as opposed to the sort of newsprint that they sometimes use. We have the fuselage halves. It gives you some idea of how big they are. We have the decal sheet, and then we'll take these out of the bags and take a close look at them. But as you can see, everything with the exception of the fuselage halves is bagged up, and here are the clear parts. Alright, so the instructions have got a nice illustration of the model, as well as the main languages featured in the instruction manual. Then we have the legalese, please don't eat the parts. And then we have some sprue maps, and they point out you're going to be given 2 options, either in flight or with the landing gear down. And then they actually start with, oh, wonder of wonders, the cockpit. I never would have expected that. And then we go through, and as is customary with Revell, they only show you a couple of parts per step, but we've got the landing gear, and then we have installing the windows. More on the windows in a moment. And then we've got installing the cockpit, and then down below here we have the landing gear bays. Then we move on to the engines. Now, the front blades of the engines are supposed to be mounted so that they can spin. The idea is they can actually spin in the wind, much like a propeller airplane. And then we've got engine pylons, installing the engines. And we've got putting the landing gear wheels on. And then they show you building the stand. And then we have here the only scheme they give you, which is Lufthansa, which may have been the only confirmed purchaser at the time when they tooled the kit. And then they have the rest of the painting guides here. And this page intentionally left blank. Now, if we look at the decal sheet, you will see that it contains windows. So basically, Revell is giving you the option of using the decals to represent the windows or using the transparent parts for the windows, which is a good idea. It's nice for them to give you that option. However, if you choose to use the decals, what you're going to have to do is basically install the windows and then putty over them and then sand the fuselage to get it nice and smooth before you install these windows. All right, let's look at the transparencies. Now these are all of the windows that fit inside the fuselage. And we've got a couple of large sprues. Basically, I think these are identical, actually. Oh, no, K and J. And yes, as a matter of fact, these ones are curved. And all these ones are straight. Then we have a third clear transparency, and this would be the cockpit windows. And if you're concerned about painting the detail and the frames on there, Revell does give you a decal that can go on that. So those are our transparencies. And I'm not really too worried about them getting scratched after all. It's a pretty small scale. And then this sprue has got our engine parts on it. And these fans here, apparently when you assemble it correctly, they are capable of spinning, which should look kind of cool. And there are the back end of the engine nacelles with the chevrons, which are supposed to cut down on the noise pollution. We have the wings, and we have some very fine panel lines here. No raised panel lines that I can tell, which is about what you'd expect. And then here is the other wing sprue. And hopefully you can see all the detail. Let's maybe zoom in close on this, just so people can see the detail. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the landing gear bays. And then this sprue has the part of the base on it. And we can see some of the landing gear parts. Let's just bring this up close, try to get a focus on it. You can see lots of nice detail there. And these are some of the landing gear bays. And as well, you can see there's corrugations and reinforcing. This is the inside of some of the landing gear doors. Lots of nice ribbing in there. I really can't see that you'd be able to add anything to that. Another sprue with engines. So there's our other chevron rings. So basically, it looks like we've got two of these spinning blades per engine. It should look really, really good when it's put all together. And then this is probably part of the stand. This is the center section of the fuselage and the wing join. And these are probably all of our engine pylons and more gear doors, I believe. And then our last sprue, we have the cockpit. Now, how much you're going to be able to see through the cockpit windows, I don't know, but at least they're there if you're game for trying to build it. Of course, these are the main engine nacelles, the outer portions. No flash that I can see. But then again, this is new tooling. You really shouldn't be seeing any flash. Now let's move on to the big parts. There we go. Now, just a trivia note. On the cargo version, the hump only comes back about that far. So these are not just simply a modification of the cargo parts. The two different kits have completely different fuselage sides. Now, if you choose to use the decals for the windows, you would install your clear parts, and then you would carefully put some filler over the top and sand until you had as perfect a finish as you can get, and then you would apply the decals. And I mean, at this distance, you really shouldn't see any sort of a relief with the windows at all. They should appear flush. So, but once again, Revell does give you that option. Now, we thought we'd give you a little comparison as to how big a 747 is. And unfortunately, I only have one other kit that's in this scale. And this is the Boeing China Clipper from just before the Second World War. And it was a huge plane. And you can see how the 747 dwarfs it. Both of these are in 1/144 scale. Now, of course, this is the 1/72nd scale Corvette. And I know Revell now has one in 1/144 scale. But this is a ship in 1/72nd scale. And you can see how large this plane is in comparison to it. So if you're going to get this plane, you're going to need quite a bit of space to display it, because you've got quite a wingspan and quite a length. All right, so that is our review of the Boeing 747-8 by Revell, and nice looking kit. And I'd like to thank Logan, one of the camera kids, for helping me film this. Whenever I have a big subject, it's kind of hard for me to hold the camera or put it on the stand and get everything in at the same time. So, until next time, thanks for watching, and keep on modeling.